I will just say to start that, it's 31 years ago now so, some things I remember like they were yesterday, and some things I'm not sure how well I'll, remember a whole bunch of things, but should be interesting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinematic Venom, and this is a very special episode because I'm here today with Jonas Moscaritolo, who was in one of my favourite Halloween films. I watch it every year, Ernest, Scared Stupid. So I have to say, I grew up in the 90s. My dad loved the Ernest films, and a lot of people my age grew up absolutely terrified of you. Your performance in this film.
All Hallows Eve, the evening all your nightmares come to life. All the creatures of the night come out to play. It's time to pay tribute to this terrifying month. So join us as we celebrate a sinister season. This is the Venom month of horrors. The reboot.
Well, after the cinematic gem Ernest goes to camp, he then saved Christmas, but that's for another time. And then after that, he went to jail. But we need to do the Christmas one first, so this is all out of order. After the first 3 ventures into films for Ernest, the popularity continued to skyrocket. Ernest Scared Stupid was originally going to be about the man himself inheriting a haunted house by his family, but this idea never went to paper. Instead, he befriends a bunch of kids.
Gross! But I love it.
Who are getting picked on at school as a form of revenge. He helps them build a tree house, but of course it just so happens to be the burial ground of an evil demonic troll that Ernest's ancestor buried many years ago. Well, sure.
Way to go, Ernest.
The troll is then released to once again kidnap children and turn them into tiny wooden dolls to release his army, while Ernest seeks help from the kids and crazy cat lady Eartha Kitt herself to defeat the troll once and for all.
Know what I mean?
This is your first movie?
Yes, it was my first movie. It was really like the second SAG production of anything that I had done.
So what was the auditioning like? How did you land the role in this?
I actually was auditioning for a pilot, and it was just totally unrelated to this. And I was actually in the waiting room getting ready to audition, and pretty nervous. And I met this woman that I found out later, she ended up giving me her card. Her name was Victoria Racimo, and she, I believe, was one of the producers. She was like for Touchstone Pictures, and she had been producing for Disney. And anyway, she made a comment to me out in the waiting room. She was also auditioning for this pilot, and she just said something to me along the lines like, do you work out, or something to do with working out. And I was very nervous because I was getting ready to read for my, first big audition. And I said yes, that I did. And then she said to me something like, I have something that I think you might be right for. And she gave me her card and asked if I would call her. And that's how it started.
It's an interesting case because the film itself flopped on release, doing poorly financially and being received negatively by critics. To the point this was actually the final Ernest film to ever be shown in theatres due to its epic failure, and many complaining that it was far too dark and scary for children. Though after many years it maintains a huge cult following, which is definitely well deserved. When the film first came out, what did you think of it when you first watched it over?
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was what it was supposed to be, I thought it was a comedy, but it was also like, I could see how it might be a little scary for like
very dark
for little kids, And of course, I was a big fan of Eartha Kitt, and growing up, like I knew her from the Batman television series as I was a kid. So, the first time I saw it was obviously with the beginning and the music and in the very beginning and the opening credits and all of that. So to see everything come together like that. And the other thing is, we stopped shooting that movie in I think in the beginning of August. And it was out for, 2 weeks or a week before Halloween. So it wasn't a big turnaround. They really had to go into overdrive to do all the stuff they had to do to get it out for Halloween. But I guess I was pretty happy with it. I really was.
The movie just has so much charm. It pays homage to classic horror movies, all combined with Varney doing his thing. Yeah, long ago. That's specific. Also, Missouri. Got married there one time. That is scary.
I'm glad you asked.
But this girl who's meant to be running for her life from a homicidal demonic troll is clearly smiling. Also, why did they just bury him under a damn tree anyway? Why not just chop it down to prevent him ever coming back? This is literally the equivalent of murdering another human being and then hiding the corpse under the rug.
What are we going to do with the body?
What body?
Hibby, that is absolutely pathetic.
And they even managed to explain why Ernest is such a dumbass in this one. As the troll named Trantor, who I'm interviewing, by the way.
Had you been a fan of the Ernest character in the movies beforehand, or was this your introduction?
I really had not. I knew very little. I was, I grew up in the Boston area, Boston, Massachusetts, and I was attending UCLA at the time. And so my whole focus was really just school. And I also was, I worked a part-time job at the time. I was working 20 to 30 hours a week, as well as going to school full time. So that was just my life. And I had met a producer in the gym while I was going to UCLA who got me that audition for the thing that I was for the pilot. And I ended up actually getting both of them, doing both of them. But I heard about the Ernest one before actually getting one that I was at the audition for.
There must have been having no knowledge of Ernest to then get introduced, and you're like, right, so you're playing a troll.
Well, what they told you was, she said it might be something you were right for, And so when she said a troll, I didn't have any real idea of what exactly that would encompass. A troll can be a lot of different thoughts came to my mind, so I wasn't sure. And what I knew of Ernest, Jim Varney was very famous for doing a lot of commercials. And so I knew of his commercials. He did a lot of car commercials out in Southern California, and a good amount of the commercials he did in the Ernest character. What do you say, Vern? And but that really kind of comedic, funny, goofy. So that's what I really knew of him. I had not seen any of the movies. I really didn't even know about him. I guess I'm thinking the Ernest one was the fourth one out of, it was the fourth one to be done, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Trantor cursed his ancestors for each generation to become dumber and dumber.
What did you think of her report?
That's bull. It's not bull. I read it in a book.
The internet in the 90s. And yeah, the movie definitely is dark. Ernest falls into his garbage truck with the rest of the Toy Story characters and he's about to die. But despite being near death, he still takes time to do his damn character voices to a doll. Did I mention how much I just love Ernest?
The great redneck hope. And start to capture the children all over the world. Just the kids. Help! Mayday! Mayday! Christmas Day! Columbus Day! Gosh, Jimmy, what's got into you? Oh boy, charades. I love charades.
He never knew when to quit.
You're gonna pay for this sins of your forefathers.
I didn't have forefathers. I just had one father, and I didn't know him that well.
Oh no. They're gonna blame this all on me.
thing is, the film knows it's silly. It's a live action cartoon and it just has fun with it. The laws of physics are clearly compromised just so Ernest can nearly get crushed to death.
This should open it. Way to go, you did it.
Well, no need to thank me, little lady. Just some routine hero work.
Did he just do an Ernest impression? Oh, and he somehow still survives. But I mean, looking at all these films, why is it Ernest always ends up taking children captive? He even takes the kids into the woods with him. What's he doing? He's gonna get arrested. The kid's dad is a cop. God, the 90s was such an innocent time. Unless you were friends with Michael Jackson. How the hell hasn't Ernest even been arrested yet? He keeps taking kids in his truck in the woods, and Kenny's mum even says,
Kenny, you have no business being with Ernest.
His mum doesn't want them hanging around with him. His dad's a cop. Why is nobody doing anything about this? And get used to that joke. It's a running gag in most of the movies, and it's never once funny. Okay, that one's a little funny. So he has a job to go and tidy up Eartha Kitt's junkyard, and if he doesn't do it, he could lose his job. You do really feel bad for the guy. He's such a little puppy dog. Look at him. But look at Eartha Kitt. Jesus Christ. Looks like Catwoman ate Christopher Lloyd. She's basically the crazy Ralph of this movie, but she chews up every second of screen time and is wonderful at doing it. And the bullies show up to wreck their haunted house, and it takes them forever to decide what to do. Just leave?
You buttheads made a big mistake!
You sure showed them. And then we get Varney doing what he does best. Yep, his multiple personalities. It makes no sense, it serves absolutely no purpose other than to kill time, but who gives a shit? In fact, they even acknowledge Ernest's split personality disorder.
Oh great, I have to defend the fort with a multiple personality.
What was it like working with Jim Varney?
You
got any great stories of him, or?
He was awesome. He was off camera. He was way more serious.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I found out a lot about him early on. You know, he was a Shakespearean trained actor. The guy was a massive talent. He really was. He could do impressions. He could do so many things. And he was, you know, he was a really trained actor and very, very gracious to me, very, you know, patient with me. And, you know, we spent, especially in the scene on the back of the pickup truck, that whole fight scene, that was like a week and a half straight. And we shot that inside a warehouse there where the road was paved inside. And I don't know exactly how long we had, but, you know, we would go for, I'm guessing it was like 50 yards, and then we'd have to back up. So if you watch that scene really closely and you look on the side, you're going to see the same thing over and over. But so I literally for like 2 months after filming, I kept hearing it. Well, in America, you know, whenever a car backs up, it's that constant beep, beep. Yeah. And so we would do the scene, back it up, do the scene, you know, and, but yeah, so we spent that week and a half in particular was, you know, 9, 10, 11-hour days, and pretty much just the two of us with Rimshot.
This looks like a good one.
Oh, hey, it's the Toy Story 4 script. Be thankful you missed it, Jim. And of course, Ernest ends up choosing the cursed tree. Why wouldn't he? The thing is, if Ernest is such a dumbass, how is he even able to build such an immense tree house to begin with? Oh well, you don't really care. This is genuinely really creepy. The atmosphere built in this film is far better than it should be. We see the troll start to stir, and it's just really spooky. This is an Ernest film! And somehow Eartha Kitt can sense it? But she and Trantor have a psychic connection now? Stop doing this in horror movies. In fact, she even knows about the curse and even says to Ernest,
"You will bring down the curse on us all."
Why would she even tell him that? That's besides the point. It's the day before Halloween. She knows about the curse. Shouldn't she be keeping a keen eye on Ernest and the tree at all times?
Tearing up this place would be major fun. Yeah, I wonder where the wimps are.
I'm a bully. It's my only personality trait. But they use their supplies to fight them off with pizza. And to be fair, their revenge is a pretty sweet and charming sequence. But this is amazing. The kids panic and leave, and they keep Trantor in the darkness, which really builds the mystery and suspense. I can see why people thought this was too dark for kids. Although I saw it as a child and I turned out fine.
Know what I mean?
And I even confronted my childhood nightmare.
So, obviously, you're this disgusting-looking troll. What was... I think I've seen it behind the scenes. It was the head a prosthetic? Was that a prosthetic head?
Yeah, there was like 4 prosthetic heads. They're the fully animatronic prosthetic head, which was the eyebrows moved, the cheekbone, the mouth and everything, all the gear and everything. In fact, the fully animatronic head, you couldn't even shoot from the back because it would have exposed the mechanics of it. And that was just used for the close-ups, for the dialogue, for when they wanted more tight shots. And that one weighed like 36 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a semi-animatronic head where it didn't do quite as much. And then there was like a not an animatronic head, but some things sort of moved. And then there was literally just a foam head. And that was the one whenever I was running or there weren't tight shots, more of the actual full-on action type scenes where the troll Trantor is, doing a lot of action.
The kids get stalked and it's so creepy. Trantor mimics Ernest's voice. Somehow. He later uses Elizabeth's voice to trick Kenny. How does he do this? He uses it during the chase as well and it is so creepy. Look at this makeup. This is way better than an Ernest movie should be. The pure design and detail is mind-blowing.
That couldn't have been the easiest thing to act in when you've got all that heavy gear.
It was challenging. I'll tell you, there are definitely some things that stood out. First of all, the whole process was very new to me, and it was a movie. Excuse me, I have my black lab Rottweiler in the background. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The whole process of doing a movie, because doing a movie is definitely different than doing TV. I had a group of 5 guys who were great, and they were called the Troll Wranglers. And they were more or less for me, for everything to do with the troll. There was the animatronic guy, and they were great guys. And they were hired from the Kyoto brothers. The Kyoto brothers were the guys who came up with the design for the troll. Charlie Kyoto in particular. He was the guy that came from Los Angeles to be on set in Nashville. Anyway, one of the guys, his name was Greg Punchance. He after the first day of filming, he asked me if I was going to go see the dailies. And I'm just being I had no idea what dailies were, and he said, you go in and you'll see what we shot the day before. And there's really no sound or whatever, but you'll kind of get a sense of what's going on. To be honest, I think he was saying it to be a little bit critical of me of the first day of filming, but also to be nice. And I'm so glad he did say that, because what I think was happening on that first day is that I was letting the fact that I was in a costume, thinking that was going to bring out much more of the role than it did. And when I saw the dailies, the very first ones, I was actually kind of bummed out, to be honest, just because I felt that I had not done a really good job. I felt that they were kind of lame and that a lot more needed to go in. You can't just bank on because nobody can see you.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that has to be done to bring out a character. And so I'm so glad that I did that on the first day, because after the dailies, I went in and I talked with Greg, and, you know, I got much more into wanting to nail down the walk, wanting to always be in like troll mode, if you will, not just thinking the costume is going to do the work for me.
Eartha Kitt does an amazing job truly hyping up the severity of the situation and just how dangerous the damn troll is. I mean, it's Ernest P. Worrell fighting a troll. It sounds ridiculous, and yet they make it scary as hell.
Them that dies will be the lucky ones.
They have a book about how to stop the troll. Could have done with that many years ago, but alright. But the riddles are really cleverly written.
There is one who can stop me if he will dare. With the heart of a child and a mother's care.
Oh great, we get these two douchebags again. Except the fat one isn't the same as in the other films. I have no idea why, I couldn't find the reason online, so I'm just gonna guess that he ate himself.
Fella comes in here the other day and he says to me, well, Tulip Brothers give me a good deal on an outboard motor and some taxidermy supplies. And I said, does a fat puppy hate fast cars?
The thing is, they make bad jokes, but they're almost intentionally bad, which in a way makes them kind of funny and just makes it really charming.
The troll is getting stronger. He has one child already.
How does she know he has one doll already?
We need a heart. A child's heart.
Jesus Christ, lady, calm down. Ernest breaks the fourth wall when he hurts himself, and I often wonder if things like this are actually scripted or if Varney just improvised and went with it.
I've seen bloopers where Jim's playing Ernest, and Ernest's character is very fast talking, and it requires a lot of memorizing.
Keeps everything sealed up safe until you lift up a tab and pop off the ring. That's not impossible dialogue.
Was there any improv on set, or was it like strictly all scripted?
Oh, tons of improv. Tons of improv. He and Coke Sam's, he was a producer, but he got along, and a writer, I believe, also, and he worked a lot with the director, Don Cherry, and I would hear them cracking up, like, because they would write stuff, and then, you know, in the middle of a take or whatever, Jim Varney would just come up with something from one of their conversations or whatever. But to answer your question, there was a lot of improv. And remember, those guys, there was a team in place there with Jim Varney. So again, I'm pretty sure that being the fourth Ernest, there's a team in place. These people have worked together, you know, the core group.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of familiarity among them and friendship among them and a big respect factor. And so this wasn't their first, you know, rodeo together.
What about the party? You stay here tonight.
My first boner! Oh, and get used to fake out cliches. Kenny gets attacked, but it's a kid in a mask. Ernest sets up a trap, then thinks he's actually caught the troll, and then they slowly open the doors and oh no, it's the bullies in a troll mask. Why does the cop even humour this notion? It's Ernest! He's a screw-up who's always wrong and kidnaps your son! He gets his gun ready and everything! This is the main scene people criticised. Elizabeth goes to her room and Trantor is there. There's a lot of build-up and it is quite predictable, but you are lying if you say this didn't scare the piss out of your bladder when you were a kid. The makeup, man, this is horrifying. Why did he hide, though? I mean, look at the actual scene. It means he would have had to climb in the window, then hide under the bed, just to then climb out and climb on the bed to scare her. Whereas in several times in this movie, he has no problem just running around the neighborhood in public. Just weird.
You know, Rimshot, you're a cute little dog, but you are one ugly little kid. Okay, Rimshot. Now bring me the stick. The stick, boy. Bring me the stick.
I also love Rimshot. Also, who's this other kid? I thought it was one of the bullies, but it isn't. He just shows up randomly. Oh well, he gets killed.
Did you do the voice for the troll as well?
I did not do the voice for the troll. Now, the voice was done by somebody doing the animatronics as well, because we needed to do the timing of the voice.
Yeah.
So there always had to be a dialogue that I knew that was going on. Because, you know, when you do the voice, that really adds to character development and all of that. So not doing the voice made me also, I think that the costume was going to do more than, you know, I had to really bank on not just somebody saying the words for timing. I had to say, I was still saying the lines, but nobody could hear me. But I was thinking them, you know, and trying to, through my movements, I was acting as if I was saying the lines.
I do love how there's a bunch of kids that have gone missing, but this one guy is still more concerned about his trash.
Why aren't you doing something? We are doing something, all right? My trash has been picked up in 2 days.
But hey, considering this takes place in a town where missing children isn't that much of a big deal, to the point the cop actually says,
They're probably already over at the school.
Is to be expected.
I captured that troll that's been stealing all the children.
I love how casual that line is. That line is amazing. Also, how exactly isn't the troll public knowledge? It wasn't exactly like 1401. It was, what, 100 years ago or so? The troll went around murdering people. Stole children. Then was buried under a tree. Wouldn't there be records of this? Then again, I guess it could be 1101. Long ago. The clothes suggest otherwise. How old is Eartha Kitt? Based on how her siblings are dressed, I know a year isn't specified, but when the troll was first captured, it just says long ago. It's hard to tell, but then looking at their clothes, it would have been about 200 years prior.
That does it, Worrell. You're fired.
But the beeper.
Great argument you got there, Ernest. Don't listen to him, Ernest. I'll just look at his face, man. He really can't keep a job in these films. Who cares? Rimshot motivates his ass, and this is such a charming moment. Even the set of the tree looks great. It's such a chilling atmosphere. It's like a classic old school horror movie. Wait a minute. This came out the year I was born. This is a classic old school horror movie. I'm old! And then we get Ernest versus Troll, and I don't even care. This fight scene is awesome. I feel like as much as I love the other Ernest films, they kind of had more filler. They had a lot of scenes that weren't really needed and just killed time until he was ready to save the day. Whereas here, the story flows smoothly scene to scene. It just feels more natural to tell the story, and this is why it's my favourite Ernest movie in the franchise. Also love how he simply locks the door and thinks the issue is resolved. Yeah, the superhuman troll can't possibly get in now. And the dog even drives! What even is this? Awesome, that's what this is. I wonder what Trantor thinks of this.
Do you have a favourite scene from the film at all? I know there's a lot to choose from.
That's a great question, really is. And I'm going to have to say that fight scene, only because, I remember when we finished shooting that, I remember the director came up to me and said, you really earned your money the last week and a half, and just because it was, we were shooting in Nashville indoors, in the middle of summer, and it was definitely, it was a lot of work. But when we were done, and I could tell that people felt good about it, that I remember feeling like that had been a good week and a half. I had felt like Jim Varney, like there was everyone got along well, even though it was long hours and different things. There was nothing bad happened. It's just, we did the work and we more or less, we may have been a day or two behind schedule, but that was actually really good for a scene like that.
Also, it's widely believed that this movie actually created the troll face meme. I can see it. Then he vanishes, which is so creepy. Ernest and Kit try to figure out how to defeat him, and the clue is the heart of a child, mother's care. M-I something K, and Ernest thinks it's...
authentic Bulgarian miak.
Miak?
Yeah, miak.
But I have to say, Kit catches a mother and daughter arguing before they have a sweet reconciliation moment. This one has a lot more heart than I think people give it credit for, and it fits in well with the overall theme. It is so badass when he shows up at the talent show to confront the troll and stands his ground. This is on some epic confrontation level, man.
It was quite dark for a kid's film. Gave me nightmares. But it's become like such a big cult classic. Like I think they've actually, in Bulgaria, they actually have created Miak. It's now an actual product, which is insane.
But they can't all be happy scenes, as the troll turns Rimshot into a doll. Why did you do that? Not Rimshot, you piece of shit!
I'll tell you how we beat this thing. I'll tell you how we do it. My great-great-granddaddy put him in that hole, and so can I. Somebody with a runny nose is gonna die.
Yeah, Ernest, you go kick his slimy ass! Fucking prick!
Why did you have to attack Ernest's dog?
I'm a huge, as you could hear my dog in the background, who's a rescue. She's a lab Rottweiler. I love animals, and my favorite animals are dogs. And what was hilarious is that I actually became really good friends with Rimshot. And when I wasn't in costume, we were buddies. But the second I was in costume, that dog was trained to attack me. And hey, about a month after that, when we got back from shooting, the dog had a birthday party in Los Angeles, and I went to it.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
On a serious note, this is beautifully done. You really feel for Ernest, as Rimshot is pretty much all he has. So now the motivation to kill the bastard is higher than ever. And I feel like Varney was so associated with this role, people forgot just how good a dramatic performer he was as well. But hey, Eartha Kitt steals a bike! Well, that's not nice. And then the third act begins. Humans versus trolls. This is where things get serious. It's so charming how Ernest tries to single-handedly stop the troll army coming to life. Bless him, he really does have a heart of gold, doesn't he?
Get out of this store!
Go for the ammo!
Those costumes don't fool me!
What? It does still give you a boost of adrenaline when the kids start to stock up on milk, since Kenny is the only kid with half a brain cell and actually figures it out. In fact, how come Eartha Kitt can't work it out? She's been obsessed with the troll for years. She couldn't figure out MI something K.
Authentic Bulgarian Miak.
Why do the trolls not just turn the humans to dolls? I mean, they still have that power, right? And it's clearly not just for humans. They got Rimshot earlier. I also love how the two brothers don't even act surprised either. Throughout the whole film, they've just humoured Ernest with the troll story, but now they find out it's all real. Oh, would you look at that? Even when people are dying, Ernest is far too occupied doing his character bits. He even wastes time talking smack to them. But I just love how everything goes colossally wrong in the most earnest way possible. Sure, the special effects haven't really aged very well, but that's kind of what gives it their charm. Their remains look awesome, and when your villains have makeup this impressive, who really cares? He even tried to cut off Ernest's head!
Sayonara, snotwad. Hey.
Since I was a kid, I've been trying to copy that and I still can't do it.
Hey.
How does he do it? Trantor realizes they're in trouble and decides to increase his power to become immortal. Why didn't he do this sooner? Then Kit shows up to put her siblings inside the tree. No idea why she does that, because we find out later that they don't need to be in the tree to come back to life, so that's kind of stupid. Okay, that makes up for it. But it is such an epic and scary moment when Trantor appears. This villain is severely underrated.
I've grown too strong for that. Not even milk can stop me now.
Although that's a very weird line. I love how the dad doesn't even look upset when his son Kenny gets turned into a doll. I know he's dead. But when Ernest squares off with him, my god, this is one of my favourite face-offs ever. It is so intense. With all the townsfolk watching on, it's almost like a Frankenstein ending.
You do pretty well against little kids and dogs. Let's see how you deal with a real man.
But somehow, despite being a moron, Ernest figures out how to defeat him. And although it's a cliche I hate, defeating evil with love, this is so cheesy, so stupid, so ridiculous, it fits the style of the theme and is the absolute perfect way to do it.
Oh, you're so cute.
It wasn't you getting to dance with Jim Varney.
All right, well, hey, I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that. That scene was not on the call sheet for that day, and that scene was shot on on a Monday. And I remember it because I had gone out the night before thinking I wasn't shooting very little. So when I got to work on Monday after being out late Sunday night in Nashville with friends that I met while filming, let's just say I wasn't feeling great. And I wasn't supposed to be, and if you remember that scene, we're twirling.
Yeah.
And going in circles and circles. And it was really close for me to getting sick inside the Trantor costume. So I remember that scene very well.
I guess it helps if you've got the head on. No one can see if you're laughing or like trying not to laugh.
in that way it helped, but it also made it where when you were perspiring and not feeling well, that having that on is not helping the situation at all. The call sheet had me just walking through the woods that day, like picking up one of the statues or whatever. And then all of a sudden we changed things. And so that was a lesson to learn where, you know, the call sheet is not set in stone.
It gives me goosebumps every time, and Ernest having the heart of a child fits the film so well. And the parents seem to all forget the death of their kids to celebrate the troll's destruction. Woo!
Did you know when you fight?
Oh yeah, we had kids. Oh no, we missed you so much. Yes, Rimshot is okay! Oh well, this is my favourite Ernest film. I think the story is structured a lot better, I think it's funnier, and it's just better made and well thought out. The film is absolutely terrifying for a kids movie, which I love, and the heart and charm is there full force. There's no bad acting performances, except maybe the girl who can't stop smiling when she's about to die. It's a clever satire paying homage to classic horror movies whilst telling its own new story. And I won't even say it's a guilty pleasure. I believe Ernest Scared Stupid is a truly great Halloween movie.
But I'm sure, do you just look back with so many fond memories of that film in particular?
I do. I really, you know, I still have friends to this day that I made there. It also, again, you know, it was my first big. So although I'm not doing a lot of acting now, I did do acting for quite a while, and so it really was. You know, I ended up having to withdraw from UCLA. I went back and I did graduate, but I did have to withdraw and take a little time off. But it got my foot in the industry, you know. And when I came back, I had a little bit of a time where, you know, agents would now see me. Yeah, you know, all the things that I had wanted were happening for me. So I'm also very appreciative. That was like my start, you know, it was like my break. And it helped me in a lot of ways. And I also think that from a production standpoint and all of that, the people that I've worked with, you know, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, all of that, I really felt Disney, Touchstone, that they were all, you know, class acts. So it was overall, it was a very positive experience.
Yeah, that's it from me. So thank you so much for doing this and being a part of a lot of our childhoods.
Oh yeah, of course. And thank you for reaching out to me. It was fun. It was fun doing it.